Right in the middle of me doing my show, you're gonna do that. What do you think I'm doing right now? I'm starting. And you're gonna... Well, yeah, I start with my intro, but you're not gonna be done in 5 minutes. Okay, put it back in there. That's not how I wanted it in there, because I can't get in there and do anything, hence the reason it was pulled out. So that I could get in there and get stuff. They all need to be pulled out and everything pulled out and those pushed back in there. I just didn't understand why you're doing it right now. Whoops.
Catch Gurl TauX every day. Follow socials, here's the way.
Gurl TauX, every platform come to play. Catch our vibe, don't delay.
Facebook, YouTube streams, scrolling through your daily memes. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Gurl TauX is all about. Keeping it real, it's what we do. So tune in now and join our crew. Lights moving through the screen, click subscribe, don't be mean. Upbeat chatter, it's our routine. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun and see what Gurl TauX is all about. Gurl TauX is who we are. Come hang with us on your tablet, phone, or screen. Anywhere Gurl TauX can be seen. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun and see what Gurl TauX is all about. Update stories, laugh and cry. It's Gurl TauX, so don't question why. It's the show that you'll adore. Come back daily to get some more. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Gurl TauX is all about. Gurl TauX is who we are. Come hang with us on your tablet, phone, or screen. Anywhere Gurl TauX can be seen. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Gurl TauX is all about. Gurl TauX, log in now, watch our show. Likes and comments, let them flow. Every day we're on our way. Gurl TauX show is here to stay. Gurl TauX show, don't miss out. Join the fun, see what Gurl TauX is all about.
Walking down this road tonight, talking about the things we fight. Addiction knocking at my door. E&T wants so much more. We walk the walk and talk the talk, right here on Gurl TauX, on the path where we belong. Standing strong through the storm, together we'll move along. Searching for a brighter day, holding tight along the way. Sobriety's a steep climb, D&T winning every time. Oh yeah, we walk the walk and talk the talk, right here on Gurl TauX, on the path where we belong. Standing strong through the storm, D&T bringing all of you along. Oh yeah, we walk the walk and talk the talk, right here on Gurl TauX, on the path where we belong. Standing strong through the storm, D&T bringing all of you along. Whoa, yeah. We walk the walk and talk the talk, right here on Gurl Talk, on the path where we belong. Standing strong through the storm, TNT bringing all of you along. Whoa, yeah. We walk the walk and talk the talk, right here on Gurl Talk, on the path where we belong. Standing strong through the storm, TNT bringing all of you along.
Help her with her ears. Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing today on a Friday? As promised, my mom is here once again to be on the show with us for part 2 of Sky High with Victoria, a woman pilot's journey through a man's world. Can you hear? All right. I can hear you too. And if anything's too quiet, just let me know and I can turn things up or down.
I can hear you here, but I can't hear you here.
You can't hear me in the ears.
No.
How about now?
Yes. Ow.
Okay. How's that? Down a little bit? Down a little bit?
There you go.
Right there? Okay. Oh, I forgot to turn a couple lights on. Can you do that for me? My tech support is down here for once, and I do notice it's a little darker than normal. So, and we don't have double screens either. I can't put both of us on the screen at the same time. We don't have a camera there anymore, sir.
What happened to it?
Oh my Lord. You know, if anyone ever paid attention to anything I actually say sometimes, I would be shocked and in awe. That's it's on the front main screen. Just hand it back to me and I'll do it. It's on the main screen with the big blue dot. You can't miss it. Main screen, blue dot. Can't miss it. This is what it's like. Remember that show I did about being authentic? This is authentic. This is real. So now you're apparently wondering where the camera is. Do you not know where the camera is?
Now I remember.
Yeah, so we don't have a third, fourth, fifth, whatever camera number that is. Not that we don't have cameras. We've got plenty of cameras. And I'm sure Mr. Tech Support will start putting one in while we're talking. Maybe we can have us both on screen. Anyway, what we're getting to is we left off with some info not being answered, and I thought we would get into that. So my introduction is, my name is Tori. I'm the host of Gurl TauX. As many of you know, and you have been watching. So like I said, my background is I'm my own village people. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up, so I just did a little bit of enough things to make me half-ass know-it-all expert on those things and nothing else. No, I'm just kidding. I got into politics mainly because of my parents. My dad was really into politics. He was my debate partner over the phone. I would call Dad and we would talk about politics. And ironically, we were on the same side, but we heavily debated, if we wanted to say certain things. And we had some little fun traditions, like I'm a veteran, my dad's a veteran, my dad was in the Korean War. And on Veterans Day, we had a policy that he called me, or I called him first because he was a vet first. So I call my dad and I wish him a happy Veterans Day and thank him for his service. And he never mentions me. He never says thank you to or any of that. We hang up the phone, and then Dad would call me back to thank me for my service. And it was never it was like we had this thing that when I call you to thank you for your service and being a veteran, that was my call to you. That was my moment for you, and it wasn't my moment for me. So then he would turn around and call me back. Do you know that we did that?
No.
Yeah, we did that all the time. Is her mic not on? Can you talk and do?
Can I talk
Oh,
into the
bring your mic closer to your face. Yeah.
Can
Now I
you-
can hear you.
Can you hear me, darling?
Now I can hear you. She's got one of those sultry voices. I tell you what.
You ought to hear me on the aviation network. Whoa.
I bet those guys at the towers probably were like, "Ooh, who's that?"
I had more pilots come in and say, I want to see who's attached to that voice.
So give me a you're flying in. All right. Steve, you want to be the tower for a second? Can you help me out here and be the tower? Okay, he's gonna be the tower for us, and we're gonna do an enactment here. Okay, is that connected? 3 is on. Headphones. Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? All right, now he can hear.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, now everybody can hear. Okay, so we're gonna do an reenactment here.
Try
let's
to,
see.
anyways.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. I will be the plane. All right. I guess we're supposed to keep it level, right?
Yeah,
Straight and level, please.
All right. Now, you two play tower and pilot. Go.
Tower, this is Cessna 1234. Are you alive or are you dead?
Cessna 1234. Go ahead with your traffic.
Heavy traffic. Do we have traffic above or below or behind?
You have traffic at 20,000 above you.
Roger. Got that. Continue on course.
You're
Copy
not
that.
going to land. I thought you were coming in for a landing.
Well, that is my course. I have to glide the
okay,
course
okay.
to land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cessna 1234. You're number 1 for arrival.
Roger. Number 1 for
Approach.
approach. Roger.
All right. You two keep going. I'm the plane.
My plane is quite bumpy up here. We have a lot of turbulence. I need to land quickly.
Cessna 1234. You're clear for a straight in approach on runway 23.
Roger. Runway 23. Downwind.
Copy. Downwind.
Okay. On base. Turning to final.
Copy. Turning final. You're clear to land.
Roger. On course. Straight and narrow. Coming down. I'm 500. 4, 3, 2, 1, 20. Okay, touchdown. Hooray, we made it and then die.
Okay. I hope everybody else was entertained by that because I was. Were you entertained by that?
Oh, of course. Every day.
actually fairly accurate.
It was fairly accurate. I mean, it didn't crash.
No.
And so a lot of people this is a helpful hint of kind of some misnomers, because as you guys were talking, I did notice that you just said, "Hey, are you alive or dead?" You just talked to them. You didn't like go all hog wild with a lot of people think it has to be such serious talk.
Well, we're not military. Military is very on point. Civilians can kind of get away with a little bit of liberty.
Banter. Little bit more off the cuff kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so that being said, I hope you all enjoyed your flight, and please join us again for another flight. Well, we left off at some questions here. Oh, okay. Again, so my background, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, Marine mom. I have 2 sons that were Marines, one that is in the tech industry and doing quite well in that, and one that was a Marine is now a federal marshal. Very proud of them. Have some grandchildren. And I run a nonprofit for veterans now, and my art business, taking into account a lot of the experience I have. Mom, or Victoria, can you give us a little background besides your flying? Give us a little more background.
Well, I was down in Hollywood, and I bumped into an agent, and he said, "Would you like to do some modeling?" And I said, "Oh, sure, why not?" Because I didn't understand what that really meant. But I became a runway model, and I apparently did quite well.
Yeah.
And I came up to visit my mom, and I seen an advertisement that said, "Get your solo license, or get your get your solo license for $99."
And that was the start of.
That was the beginning of a love affair that's still there today.
Oh, that's such a beautiful story. Well, and apparently having her children meant nothing, because that wasn't even part of her intro. She does have 2 children and some grandchildren. Also, Mom was a diplomat with the Foreign Service in the State Department, and they were stationed in Budapest, Hungary, in Egypt, in Cairo, in Mexico City, Mexico, and in the Bahamas.
Right.
Bahamas was your final duty station in the embassies, right?
That's correct.
And then you retired.
Yes.
And you retired back to Nevada, correct?
Yes, I did.
And then you stayed there until just 3 years ago when we moved here to Alabama.
That's right.
And what do you think of Alabama, by the way?
It's much different than I thought it was going to be. It's a lot friendlier. The humidity is not like they said it was going to be.
Well, it probably is. If most people think, when they think Alabama or they think humidity, they think like right there at the coast with Mobile and Pensacola and the Florida coastline, because it's the Florida Bama line. And
Right.
when you look at the Florida Bama line, that's where people mostly think of Florida and Alabama.
Right.
It's going to be there. And we're up north, so in the winter, the regret I do have is in the winter it gets pretty cold here compared to elsewhere. I mean, there's a lot of other places where it does not get as cold. Last year was kind of a fluke because there was snow and ice in Florida, and definitely in other areas as well. So, all right, back to some questions that I had for you. Let's get back to these questions. Flying on Air Force One during President George W.'s term in the White House. We asked about how that moment hit and what was the vibe on board earlier, and you said that they were quite nice and not exactly what you expected. But what was the feeling for you? Like, was it surreal that you were on Air Force One?
Well, not really. I just kind of took it as,
Well,
my duty. I served at the pleasure of the president, and if he wanted me on his plane, fine. I'll sit next to you.
right. Well, I mean, that's a good way to put it. So I think a part of the preface to that question is for me and you, because growing up with my parents. My dad was a race car driver. My mom was a pilot and a diplomat and a model. I have met so many celebrities over my time as a person. I've met dignitaries. I've met the Queen of England with mom. We have done some quite amazing things. So I am like that in a sense. I don't look at people with the woe is me eyes, like I guess probably because I was around you so much and we met so many different celebrities. Dad worked on some celebrity cars. We've just been around dignitaries and politicians and celebrities that it just really Tahoe is a mecca for a lot of celebrities. They either come there to vacation or they buy a second home there or whatever, but we're quite used to the fact that it's a common occurrence, right?
Right.
So it's not a big surprise that you were like, well, he wanted me on his plane. On this plane I go.
Yeah.
Not really so much of the, oh my God. Whereas I think somebody who hasn't been accustomed to that lifestyle in a long-term aspect would probably be a little bit more in awe. Plus, they wouldn't be invited.
Well, what was interesting is that his entourage was like, who's she? She must be somebody or something. And I just was like a clam. I just kind of give him a wink and go, ah. So they never knew who I really was.
Well, that's generally the case. They do say fake it till you make it, but also sometimes it's just good to be quiet.
That's right.
As much as I talk, I also know when to be quiet. Like I know when to be the surprise in the room and not have to, pat myself on the back or point myself out. Now, there is an ongoing joke out there. And I've told this joke forever because I think it's quite funny and my mom just kind of laughs when I say it. But how do you know a pilot's at your party?
Well, he has to stop somewhere and ask directions because he surely gets disoriented. We
Well,
don't get drunk; we get disoriented.
well, the punchline of that joke is he'll tell you. How do you know a pilot's at your party? He'll tell you.
They definitely want you to know who the heck they are.
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm number one in this room.
yeah, exactly. And we talked about the being an instructor and the industry shift for women. Or was it still a boys club? And yeah, we kind of got down to it. Kind of was a boys club. It's like you weren't really asked to be in the club, but you were tolerated in the club. The technology today has changed quite a bit, and we talked a little bit about that and how it is for some of these new pilots where they're not really so much as pilots as they are button pushers. Do you feel like they have taken taken aviation down a notch by not having it quite as elite as it used to be?
Well, I think that the rules have been kind of watered down to allow people into the aviation industry that really shouldn't be there. I would hate to have anybody other than Sully do what Sully did.
Mhm.
He had talent, he had knowledge, he was fearless, and he just took charge.
Well, and besides being, and we did go watch that movie that night, but besides being a commercial airline pilot and flying for 4 decades, he was a fighter pilot in the military
That's right.
prior. And do you feel like flying is a lot like riding a bicycle? You'll never forget if you got behind the wheel right now of a airplane.
Well, the rule is 3 touches and goes. You go to the right, you go to the left and center. Then you're on.
So if you got behind a cockpit right now,
Yeah.
do you feel like you could fly?
Well, if you gave me a new pair of eyes, I could do anything.
Well, forget the eyes part. Let's just
Oh, yeah.
pretend you could see
My
fine.
ability to fly will always be a part of me.
And sadly, everyone, that is the only reason Mom does not fly anymore, is because she is legally blind. She has macro degeneration. Is that what it's called? I think I have it right.
A bit right.
A bit right.
Macular degeneration.
Macular degeneration. So her eyes, pretty much everything's in a pinpoint, right? You can't see in the center, but you can see mostly around the sides.
Yeah.
It's very gray or gone in the center.
Fortunately, it seems to have stabilized. I don't see it getting any worse. So I think
Yeah.
I'm fortunate, because a lot of people with this condition eventually go totally blind.
Right. And you haven't done that. I mean, when we went and just recently had your glasses done, you didn't really have much of a change. It was a slight change,
Right.
but not such a huge change that you can't deal with it.
No, I can tell the difference. In fact, sometimes I see better without the glasses. Like in the morning when I'm nice and fresh, I can see better than in the evening when my eyes start to get tired.
Well, I think that's like with now, for weird reasons, and I don't know if it's the MS part of it, but when I wake up in the mornings and when I'm strained or I'm stressed, my vision gets wonky. And I'll either see double or just not be able to see really much at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's more recent, but I know when it's acting up because I can't, like, I have 20/20 vision close up, and I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, I can't read it, any of it. I can't see it. I can't read it correctly, and
Without your glasses?
at all. With
Even with your glasses?
nothing. It's like all, I don't know. It's double, triple vision, quadruple vision.
Well,
sometimes.
you need to have text.
No,
voice to text or something like that. Or
well,
text
no.
to
I mean,
voice.
it goes away.
Oh, it does.
It goes away in like within an hour or so of waking up, and it comes only when I'm super, super stressed out. It's a very weird thing, but I can relate now to some vision problems. But I'm very keen to Mom's vision issues, so I am very careful about not ignoring it until it's already happening. So when I have my eye test done, I have them do a little they do the picture and see how my eyes really are looking. So today, if you look at today in the aviation world, what advice would you give women aiming to follow your path?
Well, in my day, you did it for yourself. It was self-motivation, something that you fell in love with and you pursued it as a career. I see bimbos pretending to be aviators, and you can tell the real and the fake.
Right.
And it saddens me because I think it puts women decades behind.
Like what you talked about with Blue Origin, that was a joke.
Yeah.
It's, to me, I think it's a mockery of women.
It to me, it was very shameful.
I mean, I see no problem with if you have the ability and you have the money and you have the means to go and take a flight on a spacecraft like that could take you up there. But then don't call yourself a crew. Don't pretend you're an astronaut. You're a passenger.
Yeah, and she says, well, we were on a mission. Mission to do what? You were not the pilot.
No, the pilot was on the ground. It was all computerized. I mean, there was somebody overseeing it, but and that was a man.
Yeah.
And
also I seen in the clip that there was a man standing there with the photography. He didn't have a female cameraman.
right, they had a male cameraman. And Jeff Bezos ate it. He tripped in a hole and fell face first after they landed, which made him look like a dork. But like you're right, they didn't do anything. They didn't complete any tasks while on the whatever. The fact that his little rockets have a phallic shape to them is quite funny as well. And it's not like the old days. They were all, long, towered, skinny, well, not skinny. I mean, they were large, but rockets. But they
Yeah.
had a pointy tip. They weren't a dome tip over the top that looks like a wiener. So and all of he is built that way. And there have been some questions about it. And apparently that's he wants them that way as a funny joke. And I think that's making a mockery of space.
He must have penis envy.
Probably. He has something envy. And then, them calling themselves astronauts, even though the FAA has clearly came out and said you are not astronauts. There are certain criteria that have to be met in order to be an astronaut, and you, madams, do not qualify. But it would be also the same thing. So changing that just a slightly bit, if they went on, I mean, I sarcastically said this the other day, and I was like, so if they ride in first class on an airplane, are they the pilots? Do they call themselves the pilots because they're up front? I mean, if the pilot lets you come up and see the cockpit, are you now the pilot?
Yeah, unfortunately, they won't allow that anymore.
No, they do every now and then. I've seen it on one of my flights not that long ago. They let a kid up there.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, I don't think a kid's going to be carrying an Uzi.
That's true, but actually, one of our recent flights, they invited you up front when I told them that you were one of the first female pilots. Do you remember that?
No.
She's like, no, I don't remember that. Yeah, that's on one of our flights that we had, I think, on our way either to California and back, one of the ways there, or when we went to Hawaii. I can't remember. I think it was when we went to Hawaii.
I think when we went to Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So what other advice would you give women besides, and this is a DEI question. DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion. I think it's more divisive. I can't think of what the E would be. But that in itself says we're going to hire you over talent. Based on you're a woman, you're black, you're transgender, you're LGBTQ, because you fit into that category. You're and I mean, think about it. If you were a black African American transgender, so that makes them a woman because they think that makes them a woman. It does not. But if you had several different categories, you get top of the list for hiring, and it takes away from talent. It takes away from skill, and it takes away from ability. Are there, besides, I think DEI should be eliminated altogether. Doesn't matter what you're doing. I think it should all be eliminated. But let's say for the sake of some people want to keep DEI, I think that in certain circumstances, like serious job skills, drilling, as a in oil drillers and stuff like that, flying pilots, construction. I think you should have skill over some kind of equity inclusion crap. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel that anybody, and we don't really care who, what, where, when, if you have the ability to be a surgeon, be one. I don't care what color you are if you're going to save my life.
Right, right.
That's such a 50s mentality. We should have grown into the society we are in today.
Right, right. Well, yeah, it goes into that fire chief in LA saying, when someone comes to your house as a firefighter or paramedic, and I'm ad-libbing what she said there. But her end statement was, you want somebody to show up when you call 911, you want someone to show up that looks like you. And when I talked about this on the show, probably a month or so ago, I don't remember what episode, but anyway, when I did that episode, I stood up and said, no, I don't. I don't want anybody that looks like me showing up to rescue me. I want them to look fit. I want them to be strong, and I want them to have capabilities. And if your house is on fire, I'd want you to have water. And I'm not going to be like, what? You couldn't find a fat, dumpy woman to come and rescue me? I mean, nobody says that. And if you're gay, you're not going to be like, whoa, where's the gay one? I'm not coming out till you have that. And her secondary comment was, well, what happens or what about the people who have concerns that you can't carry someone out of a fire? And her response was, well, if a man gets himself into a position that I have to carry him out, he got himself in a bad position. What is your thoughts on somebody saying something like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think they're very intelligent to even ask that type of question. No matter who you are, what you're doing, you'll do your darndest to save somebody's life, even if you have to grab them by the top of their hair and pull them out.
True, but I mean, the question was valid. Like, people have a concern that some women don't have the strength and ability to carry someone out.
Be there.
Then they shouldn't be there.
No, absolutely
not.
But
the chief saying, well, then he got himself in a bad spot, was her response to that. Instead of saying, well, we make sure we're trained and we're capable of doing the job. Instead of that being the answer, her answer was, well, then he got himself in a bad spot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That shows me that she's not she's pretending to be. She actually doesn't care whether you live or die.
Right. And to my thought on that, when you put that together, is you're 84.
83.
You're 84.
Am I 84?
You are 84.
God. That means I'm going to be 85 in July.
Correct. Oh. That's okay.
I just lost a whole year. That's not fair.
But see, next year you'll be saying you're 84, so it's okay.
Okay.
At this point, doesn't matter.
After 80, it doesn't really matter.
But that being the question, you're going to have to put it on a different tripod, like an actual tripod. My husband has been over here dicking around with a camera. Hey, babe, I have an idea for you. Yes, I'm sorry. Forgive me for 1 second, people. The thought here is, instead of trying so hard to do that with all of those cameras, why don't you swap out the cameras? Because you want that one on there. I don't care which one's on here. I really don't. I just couldn't have that one or that one because they're too big. I already tried. I'm not going to sit here and take it apart. You're tech, you do it. Anyway, my thought about that too was about my mom. That was where my head went when she said a comment like that Well, then they got themselves into a bad situation where I have to carry them out. And I'm thinking to myself, um, if there were a fire at our house for some reason, now we have 2 exits for you upstairs. You can go out the balcony, out the back door, out a balcony, or you can come down the stairs into the house and out the front door or out the kitchen or whichever direction. Most likely, I would think if you smelt smoke or you thought there was a fire, you would go out your porch.
Yeah.
However, if the circumstances had arose where firefighters had to get called, which recently were called to our house when we were gone, we were not here. And it was really a good time for Steve and I to think about things. For some reason, our smoke alarm that is attached to our security system went off, and it said that there was a smoke alarm. Mom said she'd never heard it, but it alerted fire department. The fire department came to the house. They knocked on the door. They never tried to enter, but they did check around the house quite a bit. They were there a good half an hour, and there was no smoke and there was no fire. So they eventually did leave. However, her comment, they got themselves into a bad situation. What if you couldn't get out and a firefighter had to come in and get you out? Does that mean you put yourself in a bad situation?
No, circumstances did.
Right. You're 84 years old.
I didn't have much choice.
Like, I mean, if you lit the bed on fire around you while you were in it, maybe then her answer is correct. You put yourself in a bad situation. But most people that are in a fire or an emergency situation at their homes don't put themselves in that harm's way. Harm comes without knowing it's coming.
Right.
So that statement was very disheartening. The reason I'm asking this question is because of flying. If you have people with that kind of attitude flying an airplane that have, we'll use Sully's number for that. 155 souls on board, and you got to get down. You know, he put it down in the Hudson River. Now, what happened after they landed in the river? And they were all okay, sort of. You know, the plane was in the water, and they had to open all the doors and start letting everybody out the doors. And over the wing and all that other stuff. What did Sully do all the way through? Do you remember? He walked back and forth in the aircraft, making sure there was no one left on board.
That's true. He went all the way to the back, even if the water was up to his knees.
Right.
He
and
checked.
He kept checking until they said everybody. And his biggest concern after he got into the raft and as he continued getting over to the ferry, getting on the ferry, the last thing he did on the airplane before he finally was like, okay, I'm going to get out, is he went up to the cockpit and grabbed his clipboard.
Right.
So he had the manifest, because that's the only thing that he would have to verify all the people. And he kept saying, he said it several times, my number is 155.
Right.
The number's 155. And when he finally got told that he had 155 all accounted for, there was a couple injuries, fairly minor. One was an airline stewardess cut her leg or whatever. But you want a pilot like him that, one, can bring the aircraft down, but two, that would be concerned with their passengers and their crew more than themselves. And I feel like somebody that had that same attitude as that chief of fire, that deputy fire chief, would not care about those passengers or anyone else, they would get themselves out probably first. What are your thoughts?
Well, I did not understand much of what was going on, but her attitude was me first, and I didn't think that would be the type of person I would want to be leading a rescue into to just make
Yeah, this was during
help to
this
survive
was
me,
during the
right?
recent LA fires.
Yeah,
Yeah. That would definitely not be somebody I would want to be in charge of my aircraft if I was a passenger.
yeah,
You know, I want a pilot who is skilled, trained, and have the capabilities of helping people off. Luckily, a lot of people were totally mobile. There was hardly any injuries. So you didn't have that major issue with injuries, but you had a number of people that were able to make their way off the aircraft themselves. But there are crashes where there are major injuries, and you have to be able to get them off too and help them through it. Have you ever been in a major crash?
no.
Now, have you had minor crashes or minor incidences, I should say?
Well, carburetor ice, losing
Stall
the
out,
engine,
something like that.
spinning an aircraft.
Well, I
those
know,
sort of
I know when I
things.
was in the Army, one of the times that we were, I was on helicopters, and my pilot is like, we've got headsets and stuff, and he's like, hey, and he's super calm. He's a Vietnam vet pilot. I think you've met him actually years and years ago, Tony Adolph. And he was like, hey, so we got nothing. We're going down. We're going to have a hard landing. And luckily we weren't super high, but we were high enough. And he was able, with his skills, able to flutter it enough to make it a hard landing that we were all actually okay. But when those things happen, you have to be able to think quickly and think on your feet or in your seat, one of the two. And you've had incidences that have happened, but you were able to work through them, right? So
Right.
obviously you're still here, so you haven't had a fatal crash, or we wouldn't be having this same conversation. But when you have something like that happen, like engine stall us, now part of that is training too. You train to do that,
Right.
and when you train to do that, what is that experience like?
Well, you you basically try to put yourself into an unusual attitude and get yourself out of it.
Right.
So if there is a scenario that you find yourself in a turbulent air, you slow down, you take evasive action. You don't try and fight it. You let the plane kind of go the way it wants to,
Mm.
just like my voice.
Like your voice is doing now. So what's the moment in your career that still gives you chills?
When I got the carburetor ice coming up over Tahoe.
Tell that story. People don't understand all that, so you got to tell the story, expand on that.
Well, you're coming up from a environment on the valley where it's kind of humid, and then you fly up into a colder atmosphere, and there is a condition that they call carburetor ice, where the condensation in your carburetor turns to ice, and it clogs everything up.
And then it just stalls everything out, or what?
Well, yeah, it doesn't get oxygen, and it stops working. So what I did is I used my primer and it kept popping, and pretty soon it popped the ice out, and the carburetor came back to life, and we flew home. But you have to know what you're doing.
Right.
That's why you have the training. That's why you have ground school. That's why you have the 3 pinch hitters for the wives or spouses to know how to take off land and use the radio.
Well, and that being said, you have to have those skills. You have to have the training, and that is not something where because you are a woman, you should just be entitled to that. Just because you're whatever race, you shouldn't just be entitled to that. If you fall into a certain category, you shouldn't be entitled to that. And that's the sad part, is that is happening more recently, where people couldn't, and this happened, we saw it with the Secret Service, and it has been pointed out and proved that some of these female pilots, some of these female people in Secret Service, FBI, a few other places have now come to light that they couldn't pass the exams, they couldn't pass the qualifications for certain things, but they were passed anyway, just so that they would have that number and have them filling a seat for this DEI equity inclusion nonsense. When they do that, you're not just putting yourself at risk, you're putting other people at risk. What would you say to people who defend DEI?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think they would be very selfish people who are more important to defend the labels than defend the abilities, because you have to know what you're doing.
Right.
There's no second chances when it comes to aviation.
Yeah, when you crash, you're done.
That's right.
You
So
can't,
long, Charlie.
like they did in Sully, if you remember, he was very adamant about the fact that he did what was best. And no, I didn't have the other engine. And they were arguing that he did. And they were saying, you had time to make it to Teterboro. You had time to make it back to LaGuardia. And he said, I didn't. As soon as I realized, and they went through the checklist, and they're like, well, you should have done this. And one of the things on the checklist was wait 30 seconds. 30 seconds can be the matter of life and death.
It was. They proved it.
And they proved it. And when they said, well, we had these computer simulations do it, and they made it to LaGuardia, they made it to Teterboro without incident because they plugged in the information. Now, I'm sure even you as a pilot, anyone as a pilot, anyone out there, if you already knew in advance that, boom, you're going to have bird strike, immediately bank left and turn around and go right back to where you started, any decent pilot could have made it back. But that's knowing the circumstances in advance.
Well, you have to understand that lift is perpendicular to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And as you turn, the aircraft, your lift is this way, not this way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to lose.
You're going to lose.
You're going to
altitude.
lose some altitude in a turn. And you're trained for this, and you realize that, and that's why you do it in the simulator.
Well, and that's why they did it in the computer generated. So when we're going to use the plane again. So when you have the aircraft flying, we're talking about Sully's, and they hit birds, the simulation, the computer generated one, and the ones that they had the pilots fly in the simulator, they hit birds, engine out, immediately banking, turning back to where they started. Quick and easy. Now, what actually happened is bird strike, engine out, up, other engine out. They continued on quite a ways as they were, and of course, as they're continuing on, they're going down because of the weight and they have no thrust. So they're going down and they're going through the checklist. They're trying to turn things on. They're trying to see if they can restart one of those engines, see if they could get any thrust anywhere. They're trying their flaps to see if they can get anything to help them get some altitude. So by the time they're way out here and they finally realize there's no way I'm going to make it, and they can't bank because there's no way. He was already kind of veering off to do a turn towards Teterboro, and he realized there's no way. He turned back towards the river. And I mean, by the time he passed the bridge, it was already alerting. And then they came in, and he knew well enough not to put his landing gear down because that could cause you to flip. And he brought it in and he raised it up so that it came in fully on that belly so that it wouldn't dip in and flip forward. So that is some seriously talented flying. In your experience within all the different pilots, including yourself, do you think that you could have done something like that
I think we all could have, because I think we're trained for that.
back in the day?
Yeah, it's just like training surgeons to be, doctors to be surgeons. They have to go through the training. They have to know what a scalpel is. They have to know what a liver is, etc. Same thing in aviation. You have to know what your ailerons do. You have to know your pitch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, when you realize that it's a no-go, then you have to look around and find out the most successful landing that you can make and walk away.
And it's quick, right? You don't have time to
No.
evaluate.
No,
You don't have time to sit and think about it. You have to really get into it quickly and make a determination, and then you have to stick to that, right?
right.
You have to go. It's kind of like coming in for a landing, right? Once you decide to come in for a landing, you got to stick with it.
No, you can't be, oh, well, I'll go there. You can't do that because you don't have, you only have so much airspace.
Right. Right. And you only have so much fuel. So, now that moment that gave you chills, think about, why does it matter that the training, why does it matter?
Well, without the training, he would not have been able to do what he did. He wouldn't have known.
And majority of pilots today would not have that sense worth to think outside of the papers and outside of a box.
Well, I think what they're training today is button pushers. You have an automatic landing, the automatic takeoff, all this kind of stuff, and I'm glad that they have it if you really need it. But you really should be the pilot. You should be able to maneuver your aircraft to the most successful landing you can.
Well, it's like sometimes I think about that when you go to the doctors and they use an automatic blood pressure machine. Not having the skill anymore to be able to take a proper blood pressure. We're going that way with so many different things out there. Everything's so automated. Automated driving of cars, with the Tesla where it can drive for you. I think when you think about it, like many of us, we have our phones and they're so automated. They're smartphones. They're so automated that 90% of us can't remember somebody's cell phone. If you were in an emergency situation, you had to call somebody and your phone wasn't working or you didn't have it. 90% of people could not pull up somebody's phone number in their memory banks.
No.
And in the old days, you knew everybody's phone number by heart and we called it by heart, but it was by memory. Like we knew people's phone numbers, because we didn't carry around address books. It was a little too much. So we just memorized people's addresses, their phone numbers, how to get a hold of them. And when everything becomes automated, I think it makes people dumber. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think it makes them dumber. I think it makes them lazy.
Right.
Because you're not going to lose your smarts. You still are smart. If you don't use it, you become lazy. And then your brain says, well, I don't have to do that. And so then you kind of just cruise along and you're on neutral and you're not achieving anything that can be worthy to society.
Well, I have to say, my mom's story, I think, proves that you can break any ceiling you want to. You can do anything that you want to. I think you just have to put the skills and the training and find what you're passionate about, whether it be flying or painting or whatever it is, whatever you're wanting to do, find that passion and make it, make yourself the best that you can be at whatever it is you're passionate about. And for young kids and young girls, if you have ever heard of it, it's called Young Eagles. And it's an organization where pilots come together with their own planes and their own skills. Some of them are instructor pilots, some of them are just pilots. And they take kids up and teach them the joy and the passion of flying. Have you ever flown with any of them or anything like that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. But it's a great organization. If you've ever thought about getting your child involved or thinking about flying, it's a great organization. You can look them up. It's called Young Eagles. They have different chapters of it all over the country. So, again, like I said, this proves that you can break ceilings. We're all doing it every day, all of us, when we push through things. So we just have to keep soaring. Now, I do have some Dear Margaret questions for you. So, one more thing before I start the Dear Margaret questions. Can you do me a favor and tell me one of your favorite flying stories?
Oh. Well, I guess flying out of Tahoe, fixed base operator, and one of the new instructors that came aboard was a Blue Angel pilot. And he was the nicest guy and down to earth and no big ego. And he didn't come aboard as, look at me, I've done this, this, and this. And I'm going like, he was enthralled that I had the passion for flying. And we got along really well. And I was really surprised that he was that man that had the humility of taking his talent and saying, oh, well, we all have certain talents. I just like to fly.
Oh, that's a really cool story. That's a really cool story. Well, anyway, everybody knows what time it is. Do you know what time it is?
It's time for Margaret.
Yeah, Dear Margaret. All right. Well, we're gonna get to Dear Margaret here in just a second. In the meantime, let's listen to our Dear Margaret intro song, if I can get it to hit the play button. Sometimes I'm a little dense.
Dear Margaret's here, let's dive right in. Bring your questions, let's begin. Life's a real maze. We'll help you with your coping. Dealing with life in this rat race. Honest thoughts, no sugarcoating.
Tell us your tales, your woes, your gripes. No fluff, no bows, just real life types. Sign it clever, let your pen take flight. We'll serve the truth, sharp and bright.
Send us a query, take a lead. No hidden rules, no secrets to keep. Anonymous wisdom that cuts so deep. Dear Margaret's advice you'll want to reap. But in the end, let's admit we all really don't care, Margaret.
So, in case you didn't know, my reason for Dear Margaret is because when J.D. Vance was having his interview with Margaret, and they were talking about the Tronde Aragua gang members taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, she said, well, we've talked to the mayor's office and there was only a couple. And his response was, I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want them in my city. I don't want them in my town. I don't want them in my country. And I'm in the same boat with him. I don't really care, Margaret. So I decided to make my modern take on the Dear Abby and call it Dear Margaret. So let's get ready to Dear Margaretize. Now, Mom, a lot of these questions are probably going to be more for you than they are for me. I'll answer if I can, but if you have the answer, you answer. All right?
All righty.
All right. We'll pretend you're Margaret. Should I put my Margaret hat on you?
No, I'll keep mine. Thank you.
Well, that's fine.
That's too fancy for me.
Well, that's why it's Dear Margaret's hat, right? And the funny part is there are so many people out there that have looked at our show, and I got quite a few little questions that were sent in after they watched. So this will be fun. All right. Dear Margaret, I'm pumped to learn to fly, but DEI programs make me worry people will say I only got it because I'm a woman. How do I prove I'm legit?
Well, first of all, you have to analyze your motivation is to prove something or your motivation is to be something. That's the biggest part of it. Do you want to do it to show somebody that you can, or do you want to do it because you know you have the ability and you have the passion to be a pilot?
Right. And I'm sorry, that one was signed Earning My Stripes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Like, when you earn your wings, not gifted, and I mean by that, if there is any DEI that cracks the door open for you to get in, what I would say myself anyway would be, don't take any of the easy ways. If they give you if you see that they're given the men have to do this, say in your class, but then you or any other women are like, well, you guys don't have to do that. Require that yourself do the same as everyone
That's right.
else.
You want to be an equal. You don't want to be a gift.
Right. You don't want to be gifted it. Enroll in top programs. Keep your grade above 90%. Push yourself harder. I will say, as a female in the military, in a different era than my mother, but I think the same thing would apply. I pushed myself beyond my own limits. I pushed myself harder so that I could, yes, I'm proving it, but I'm proving it by my skill and ability. I wasn't proving it by, look at me, I'm a girl. I was proving it by I can do the same as you. I can push on the same level as you. Make sure that by doing your best and making sure if you're competing against, find out who's the. I learned this from one of my instructors a long time ago. He said, figure out who the best one in the room is and be better than them, or try to be better than them.
Right.
If you find the best person in the room and you push yourself beyond and you're striving to be as good as them, if not better, you will prove to be worthy, and everyone by the end will know you're not a quota. They'll know you have the skills and that you can be a talented pilot.
Right.
I think you have to consider the fact that a lot of these programs are still going to have a slight bit of DEI involved until it's eradicated. And until that happens, once you get there and you're given, like, for the military, for example, they're trying to remove now the physical fitness separation, men and women, that kind of thing. So if you yourself set your standards, find out what the standards are, and you push to beat those standards, then you won't ever have a question of whether or not you deserve to be there.
Right.
And that you made it on your own. That's my opinion.
Well, you have to set your own goals. Sometimes in my lifetime, I've always set goals that were difficult, but they were easy for me because I honed them to my talents.
Right, right.
And mine was flying. And, I could look out the side of the window and tell my student, why are you doing 72 when you're supposed to be doing 70? He
Right.
said, how do you know? And I said, it's because I can hear the engine.
Right. You know your equipment.
Yep.
You know what's happening. All right, number 2. Dear Margaret, Blue Origin space flights are dope, but Blonde Origins, women only pitch feels like a marketing ploy. Which one's worth rooting for? Now, I don't know that I ever shared the Blonde Origin. Did I? Yeah, I did. I made you watch that. The one with Megyn Kelly.
Yeah.
Now, the one with Megyn Kelly, just to be clear, Chasing the Stars, that was signature. Just to be clear, Blonde Origin was a joke. They did it purposely as a joke. They were doing it to make fun of those who did. I'm trying to have a little bit of where I can see. They did that as a mockery to the ones who were doing Blue Origin, because we all took Blue Origin as a mockery to women. So Blonde Origin was Megyn Kelly's mockery of Blue Origin. It wasn't meant to be serious in the first place. It was meant to be fluff. It was meant to be funny. It was meant to be a parody or a joke on the fact that, when you have people like Gail say, well, have you been? Are you kidding me? You're saying that to average people out there. Well, you have nothing to say about flying to space or being called an astronaut if you haven't been. 99.9999999% of the population falls into that category.
Well, I'm as much of an astronaut as she is.
I'd say more so, because you've flown in Air Force One. You've flown your own planes.
Yeah.
You've flown jets.
Yeah.
You've flown test aircraft for the Air Force.
Yeah.
You've flown over fires.
Yeah.
And into fires.
Yeah.
I think you're way more of an astronaut than those women at all. But you know what they do know how to do that you might not know how to do? You don't know how to put your seatbelt on in that aircraft.
Oh, I missed that class.
Do you know what the word ingress and egress mean?
Uh, intersanctum and outer space, right?
Well, pretty much. It's getting in and getting out. I know you were trying to be funny, which was funny.
I was joking.
But I mean, like, seriously, it's getting in and getting out.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I have to have instructions on how to get in and out of my car.
Well, especially now. I mean, the difference is at 84. I think you can you understand this better than they did. And that tells you a lot out there, people. All right, number 3. Dear Margaret, I'm starting flight school and want tech to help, but the apps are overwhelming. Where should I begin? And that is charting my path. Well, where you begin is the training. I mean, any of the tech, if you can't handle the tech that is required to fly, I would be concerned with your ability to be a pilot.
Well, they they have ground school that anybody can go to, and I would say if you have not started flying, I would go to ground school and learn what it's all about, because they'll teach you a lot in ground school that you can apply to your aviation career.
And practice.
Oh yeah.
Practice makes better. If you're ready to soar, you want to take that on, you want to start that process. Tech is your wingman. It's part of the process. All the technology. I mean, you get into an aircraft and the cockpit looks like, wow, there's so much. But it's really not overwhelming because you're only dealing with one thing at a time.
The only instrument that you need to know is needle, ball, and airspeed.
Well, and anything else that you're using, you're only doing it one at a time. You're not using everything all at once.
Well, it's all working.
It's all working.
But you don't focus on it unless it's something that you need to pay attention to.
And the training will teach you where those things are and where those things are, and they're fairly in the same location in every plane. They're not entirely.
Generally, they try to keep it static.
Mm-hmm.
So you know where the altimeter is, you know where the airspeed is, and so forth and so on. So no matter what airplane you're in, they're going to be in the same configuration.
Right. I mean, if anything, there's a few other things that might be in an aircraft, but as you train up, you are going to move, as you move up into a different aircraft, like IFR and VFR and, all those different things, as you train up and move up in classes, you train up for that. You have to be knowledgeable, skilled, and have the ability. If you can't pass your IFR and VFR from your instructor pilot, you're not going to get licensed to use that until you can pass it.
You should never get into aviation as a career. Aviation is based upon your passion of flying, and that will be your basis. And if you have that, then you'll do very well. But if you just want to get in and get your license and become an airline pilot, that's just a job.
Right. I think there has to be something said for not starting it to be a commercial airline pilot if you don't have the passion for it.
Right.
If you have the passion for it, having it as a career just is an added bonus, because then you're just enjoying what you do for a living. But if you just think you can get in and do the job when you have no training and you have no skills, it might not be the best place for you. You know, there are different For Flight's AI app for flight planning. There are AI apps, there are other apps, there are other technology that you can use to assist you. But I think the best thing that you can use is your own skills and abilities. 70% of pilots are using these apps and these different things to do, but you need to make sure you have the tools and that you know how to do it without those. You know, it's like I use Grok for writing my outlines for my shows, but I can write them without him. So if you're using technology to help you with your flying, that's fine. Just make sure you can do it without that.
Yes.
You can't just rely on some kind of technology if you don't have the skills to do it without it. Because at some point in time, if it ever happens, you could lose all your equipment, right? Like everything could go out. And then what are you stuck with?
Needle ball and airspeed.
Right? So you
I'm telling ya.
have to know how to fly, not just relying on some silly technology.
Right.
You have to actually have the skills that go into it. You know, there's quite a few different apps that you can look at. There's also some videos about it that you can look at. And there is some more information that is out there. I did get a few questions for you. Let's see, I can take my hat off now because that segment is done. We only had 3 questions for you. Sorry about my sound. They only had 3 questions for you. So now I do have some others that came in. And these were questions for you and I to answer. Question: how can I afford flight school without going broke?
Well, I would say take a look at what's available at your local airport. If there is a club, you know, that's a very hard question to answer because I could not afford to be a pilot today
Right, starting from the ground up.
from the ground up. But
Well, I will have to say, to jump in there for 1 second, be a smart hustler. I think that's a good way to look at it. There are, even though I don't agree with the DEI thing, there are Women in Aviation International scholarships. $2 million is awarded every year to women trying to break into flying. I don't agree with DEI as far as we're hiring you because, but if there are scholarships and there are things out there that you can utilize as a woman, because remember what we said back when moms started flying, there was only 1% of women flying. Now there's only 5% of women flying. Therefore, if you start and you do your online ground school, which there are quite a few places you can go that they're free. The ground school portion can be free. The only portion that costs money is to take the exam after you've done ground school. So do your ground school on your own time. On your own time and your own dime, because really it costs you nothing but your time.
right.
And that means you have to pay attention and focus and get dedicated into it. You're building wings on a budget, sure, but look into scholarships. Look into, there are airline companies that want to hire female pilots and they will pay for them to go to flight school. Now, once you get there, don't DEI your way out of it. Like, make sure you fly to the par. Make sure you push yourself to the limits and do the best job so that when you finish and you get your wings and you can fly, that not only was the money that was given to you given to the right person in the right seat, because there's probably other people that would have liked to have gotten that, earn it. That's what I have to say. It goes back to that movie Saving Private Ryan, remember the end? Earn it.
Right.
Don't just take it, earn it. That's my opinion. All right, question number 2 here is, what's the toughest part about being a woman in aviation?
Having people take you seriously. And this Blue Horizon stuff just sucks. It has just made a joke out of what we who are in the industry have fought for a long time, to be able to be equal to the male pilot. The aircraft could care less whether you are a female or a male. If you know how to maneuver and how to fly, it doesn't care.
Right, because it's still a boys' club, but if you make a mockery of it by doing things like Blue Origin, you're just making fun of it.
Have you heard or had any comments by male pilots about Blue Origin?
I think it's been very quiet. Most of the conversation has been women pissed off about what they did.
Yeah.
Most of there have been other comments, I'm sure, and there have been male comments, but the majority of what I've been watching and seeing, the men are keeping their mouths shut because a lot of women are pissed off about what they did.
Yeah.
And how they portrayed it. It's still a boys' club. Aviation is still a boys' club. So breaking into that, 20% of women pilots face bias. So you're already going to be in that tougher position. You're tougher than that. Network with groups, get into the 99s and outshine the noise. But you have to do that by also not making a mockery of it. When I say 20% of women pilots face bias, that's 20% of women that are only 5% of aviation. So that's a very small percentage of people that are even paying attention to it. There's an awful lot of men. If only 20% of that 5% are facing bias, that means that there's an awful lot of men that are accepting of the women that are flying. That means 80% of the men are not giving you problems.
Right.
So, earn your wings and then prove yourself. And then join organizations that you can, the 99s are a woman flying organization. They've been around for a long, long time. You were a part of the 99s. Yeah. Back in the day. And it's a lot different today. But, you have to put yourself in a better position so that you are not part of the joke herd like the Blue Origin. That's my opinion. Question: can tech make me a better pilot? Technology or some of the new tech? I'm assuming they're talking about the newer tech. Can tech make me a better pilot?
No.
And explain. She just no. Explain.
Well, if everything is at your fingertips and you push this button to do that and push this to do this, you lose the ability of being able to do it and analyze it yourself. So I would say go back to Cessna 150 and go up and learn how to fly.
Yeah.
You can only do so much in a simulator.
Well, and I would add to that is the tech can help you. You use it as an assistant,
right?
Not as a tool to do it for you. If you start using things to do it for you, then you're going to have a problem. Use it for the things that are not flying based, like map planning on your Garmin. Put your plot points in, that's easy. Use that tech for that type of thing. But when it comes to the flying itself, stay more in the cockpit rather than the simulator. And when I say that, yes, a simulator has a cockpit, but spend more time in a real cockpit than you do with a fake cockpit. Doing fake scenarios. When you ever face one of those scenarios, you probably will not be able to complete it. I see some of these simulators or games where they're flying in, and they're so realistic nowadays. And these are just people playing games on their phone. And one popped up on my feed yesterday, and it was this one plane coming in and another big plane over here, and he was coming in, and this one turned itself real quick this way, and this one came this way sideways, and he went and back up, and he came and he went like this, and then he came in and he landed like he was bouncing on the and it was a game. And so many of the comments were more entertaining than the video, because the comments were like, wow, the people on that plane must be really scared. And oh my God, what a talented pilot. Oh my God, that was amazing. And then you read the other people that are like, that's a video game, people. That's not real. Like that, planes don't do that without crashing. So don't succumb to that kind of tech where it's crazy. But use the apps to your best ability. And Aviation Access, women receive 15% of pilot scholarships in 2024. So pilot scholarships are not just for women, but there are women-only scholarships. Apply for them. But you have to show that you have an ability. Do your ground school, have that so you can submit it, that you've already done the ground school portion. Be careful of the bias. Don't let yourself get into that DEI mindset where you'll take a pass if you didn't earn it. Earn it, earn it, earn it, earn it. I can't say it enough times. Tech Impact is aviation apps. Save 40% of planning time, but using those for planning time, not your flying time. I think that's the most important thing. You have to use those things for the right reasons. Ladies, Victoria has proved that the skies are no limit. You can break your own ceiling. You can fly your dreams. You can fly your own hustle. But stay fierce. Go after what you want. Go for it. Drop questions in the comments. And if there's more questions after this, I will have Mom on again. I'm sure I'll have her on again for other reasons, but I can always ask questions and bring them to you. So drop your comments, questions in the comments, or you can email them to Tori@gurltaux.com as well. And the next time you're thinking about flying, think about my mom and what she was able to do so many years ago. It's been a little while since you started flying, and the fact that you still have the same smile on your face and the same love for flying that you had all those years ago. What would be the last thing that you would tell women that might be watching that are even thinking about that they love flying, or even just being on an airplane and they think that makes them love flying? What would be the last thing that you would tell them as far as some advice to go after flying?
Follow your passion. If you're not passionate about flying, don't do it, because you need to have that inner self that says, this is what I want to do. We can always be anybody that we want to be, but to be able to be an aviator takes a lot of skills. And if you don't have those skills, don't, because it'll be very disappointing. So go for it.
And I will add, when it comes to the cost and the worry about the cost of it today, I would say where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
If you want it bad enough, you can find a way to make it happen. I think my mom's a badass pilot, and not just because of being a female pilot, but the fact that my mom flew into fires. She's flown on Air Force One. She's flown celebrities like Elvis, astronauts. She has flown with pilots that were with the Thunderbirds. And did you ever fly with any that were with the Blue
Blue
Angels?
Angels, no.
No, because she was mostly associated with the Air Force. So you can be like my mom and be a badass pilot too. You can chart your future however you want it. Don't let anything stop you if that's what you want to do. As for that, we are out of here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Mom, for joining me on my show again. I appreciate it. And for those of you out there that have come a few times, please subscribe, share, like, and come back on Monday. I'll be back on Monday. And write in your comments, because Mom did like getting those questions back at her. So you can email your Dear Margaret questions to Dear Marge, DearMarg @gurltaux.com. And Gurl TauX is GURLTAUX, because we're going to talk about it on the show. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you and have a great night. We will see you again on Monday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Forget what the time says on my outgoing song, because I haven't been able to make it get the right sound changing the time. I'm working on it. I'll get it at some point in time.
Well, leave it the way it is, and at the end say "and."
At 5
And
p.m.
update
Yeah, exactly.
It is now at 5 p.m.
Thank you for watching Gurl TauX live broadcast, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget to send in your Dear Margaret questions. Then join us for our opinion-based answers. We love having you. Thanks for taking the time to be with us tonight. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Good night. Don't forget, 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. 5 to 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you. Have a great night.